semiology of it. You know, I don't know who it is, but you know, just, you know, the lion with the eagle loses its wings and all that. You know, you look at that, and I'm doing 2 different Bible studies right now in the Book of Revelation. So
Are they coming together?
Yes.
To make sense?
Well, one of them is the traditional, and it's kind of boring, but I'm trying to understand where people are coming from, who got that, you know, because that was something I was really trying to study and understand when we were in Colorado, and Marilyn Hickey didn't really feel like that was something that she needed to discuss, or wanted to discuss the details, but when I read the Bible for myself, it's like so clear that it's just not a rapture that's happening early on. Anyway, I'm just saying,
no, you're
the
right.
way I was reading it, and I'm just trying to understand other Bible. There's this one on, if you guys have Roku, I don't know if you, I got the Roku and I can watch a PTL story. Jim Baker, you know, I think he recorded this like 15 years ago, but when he was in prison, he really studied the Greek of the Book of Revelation. And so he's teaching it very methodically and carefully through that, you know. So when you study the Greek of it, it becomes kind of more revealing, you know, like, you know, lights are going on, and I'm like, well, why are people saying it's so hard to understand? And, you know, maybe it is in the old days, but now that we have all this history going on, being made right now around us, it's something that we're able to kind of connect the dots.
There's a blessing associated with studying.
Yeah, and being part of this generation.
But I grew up in a church that said, oh, you want to read Revelation, you want to understand
You won't understand it anyway.
But yet it says you'll be given a blessing for doing it, so, you know, that's why I'm like, well, let's dig it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And again, you'll get something different.
Always, yeah, it's deep.
Rebecca, did you ever meet this lady? This, what you say, the general's daughter-in-law? Did you meet her?
Mary Beth. No, she has written to me. The real life daughter, you mean the real life person? She's written to me.
Did you ever ask her about some of the mind meld she said you had, her thoughts, her emotions, and confirm those with her?
She's never been forthcoming.
She's very closed?
In some things, and this I'm just sharing, I don't have secrets. I'm very confused about, not confused, that's not a good word, but how did I, if I was seeing, everything I saw there, if that came from Mary Beth's brain, from her memory of when she was watching, some was not so clear, it was like she was watching it on TV, some was very clear, like she was there. But some of it, it confuses me. How did I see that baby before it was born? How did I saw the end of the earth. I saw Yahshua come back. But she wasn't alive at the time. That confuses me. How did I see something after she was gone? I don't know. I don't know. She talked to me one time in the vision. Of all that I saw, that I typed 19 hours that night documenting, and I spent 16 years putting together, like these are some slides that I made. I have 300 slides. I have the 25, you know, it took over my brain and my spirit. But of all that, she only spoke to me once. She seemed to see me as if I was real in her world. And I'm not. I wasn't. This was years ago. But she, after I had gotten everything, you know, that I'm making the movie of, after I got all the big important stuff and the chronology and what's going to happen and stuff I didn't know, and she looked me in the eye one time for a couple of sentences and said, let me see if I can quote it exactly. You guys were so busy trying to save each other. You didn't even think of us or what we would need. And we are your real mission because we need you now. And if you had thought ahead to where you could have even given me an aspirin for my son, I would have listened to you.
Wow. Because isn't that why a lot of us, I know, like, Roland and I feel like why we're here is to help others who, are caught unaware. What's going on? No Social Security checks coming in. What am I gonna do now?
So,
They're
So
gonna
what
listen.
you're saying is, she was saying, why didn't you prepare?
Yes, why didn't you think of us? We would have listened, you would have had your converts, because I promised to be a missionary when I was 15. So here I'm waiting for 50 years or how, like 40 years, whatever, a long time for Father to use me, and nothing happens, which is okay, I'm waiting. And then all of a sudden she says, your ministry was not Africa, it was tomorrow. It still puts fear in me when I hear that. That's 16 years. It's the only thing she said to me. Everything else was like I was raping her brain or something. Like
It's gotta feel like
I knew all this stuff about her, and I knew what was coming, and I saw through her eyes, and I hated Obama because she did, But I don't know if she knew me. But during that one moment, that's however long I spoke, a minute, 2 minutes, that was all she ever spoke to me.
Did you respond to her?
I was crying. But I went out immediately. My daughter is a lovely born-again Christian, Teresa. She'll be moving here with us. And she said she was sorry she wasn't here, but she lives in the U.S. right now. I told her immediately what had happened. I said, what are we going to do? She said, we're going to go to a lawyer and ask for advice. And we went to Judge Linwood Maddox. I don't know if you know who he is. We used his firm. I owned a mortgage company. And you always have to have someone that will do the closings and check titles and all that kind of stuff. And we used his firm. And over the years of working with him in a regular business setting, we also happened to learn that he was a born-again Christian, and that at the very beginning of the 700 Club, now this is 50 years ago, or some long time, what's his name? Pat Robertson. Pat Roberts, just 2 syllables. Pat Roberts, before Ben Kenchlow and all the old guys, Judge Linwood Maddox was his co-host. And so we said, gosh, he's got to be deep enough that we could talk this weird stuff to him. Teresa and I went. This is before the accident. I had a horrific accident just after I got this vision. Our father's enemy shut me up. It was probably a favor. But the MS came back with a vengeance after I had this horrible accident. So after the vision, which was September, and before the accident, which was February, we went to Judge Linwood Maddox and said, we want to tell you some weird stuff, is it okay? And he said, yeah, because he knew I was a Christian. And I told him, sir, just try to hear me with an open mind. I had a vision. And here's what. And I told him the only thing this lady ever told me, she looked me in the eye and she said what I said. And we said, what can we do? And he took it very seriously. And we worked for a long time and we didn't get the answer, but he said probably, because he said if you leave a bunch of money, we talked about everything. Whoever's left from the time that the bride is taken, you see what I'm saying? From that time, the people left, you can't trust to take care of the $1 billion we left for those who are hurting. So what can we do? And we talked about putting a brass plaque on our door that said, if I find myself missing, if a bunch of people are all missing at the same time, this is what I want you to do, and the government cannot have this property. And we talked about all kinds of stuff. But the only thing we really, at the end, he said, because I am not smart enough and don't have the experience, and I don't think anybody does, he said, I suggest that you get together, $5,000 or something, which was a lot 16 years ago, and offer it to the law schools as a, how do you say prize? A grant,
Scholarship?
yeah, whoever comes up with the most logical and reasonable answer to this puzzle, because they love that, and it was a good puzzle, and he said, and then whoever does it, you give them the 5,000. But in the meantime, you get every law student in the nation working on it for free. Now, this is his final answer.
Or for 5,000.
Yeah, that frame.
Yeah, for $5,000, I get maybe 100 good answers. And I didn't do it because, like I said, now in February, the horrible accident. Do you know anything about MS, or do you know?
Oh, yeah.
I know you do. Does the average Joe know about MS? Do you know about MS?
Immune system, inflammation.
It gets turned on and can't get turned off
By the nerves.
in the brain. They get cross-wired, but Dr. Harold Moses, he's one of the very best in the world. He's one of the few that, the National Institute of Health, that's the federal government's money. They only allow a few certain people to do live tests on real people, and they have to have certain protocols and stuff. Well, he's the one for the United States for MS, and I got to have him as my physician. He said, and this is boring probably, but I'll just tell you, if you know it's not boring, okay. He said, after your heart and breathing, one of the most important things your body does is immune system, and what can go wrong is it either gets turned on and can't shut off. Those are the 100 autoimmune diseases. It gets turned on and can't turn off. And the opposite of that is HIV/AIDS, when it can't turn on. You get a cold and you die because it doesn't come on. Anyway, so when MS comes and gets your brain, if you have 3 lesions in your brain, that means it's all scarred up and they don't work right. You can have 3 that are just the size of an apple seed or as big as a pearl, but you have to have 3 or more, and it has to be seen in your spinal column, your spinal fluid. And so when they did mine, I had over 25. 8 is the average. You have to have 3 to have MS. 8 is average. I had over 25. And it kept going down to smaller numbers, and every time I would say, "Sir, I'm so happy, thank you, I only have 19 now." He said, "Honey, it's a bad thing because this one and this one were growing and they merged and it's only 1 now." So anyway, that's what I had. Why did I get into that?
Why you didn't do the attorney deal? 'Cause
Yeah,
you had
thank you. So the MS was so bad, and everybody knows me, has heard me say this, and they're tired of it, but my mother was a superb teacher. She, not by education, but her love. Every one of us, and she always brought in kids, extra kids, and cousins, and kids from the church that were poor. And every child, by the time they started kindergarten, could read and write. And that was really important to her. So when the MS came and got me so bad after that accident, because it does such a thing, it's called a flare. So my MS flared. And it was so bad, I couldn't walk, and I couldn't read. I would get to the end of a sentence, and when I can make something like that in an hour, I go, "Father, you're amazing." I couldn't read. I couldn't see. Teresa talks about how she had to finish every sentence I said. My left hand shook always, like a palsy. I was in bad shape. He and I had a real good sit down. He said, this is off topic. He said, "Okay, I will give you what you want, but think about it before you answer. Do you want to go back to being well and having none of the lessons that you can learn when you get to the other side? or do you want the lessons? And they'll cost. So we sat down and talked, and I said, he was trying to teach me to praise in all things. And now I have the sacrifice of praise. When I don't feel like it, and a lot of times I don't. I was just telling the Rita the other day, I have tumors inside my eyes. I have, they don't know what to do. They don't want to have to operate. I've been through all the tests. I've been through medicines. I've been you know, and all the things that I still have wrong, but it's nothing compared to how I was. I'm so grateful to be able to finish sentences and type and read and walk. Let's have another question. Or is it time to go to talk about the property?
I don't know, I've loved hearing about this. This is amazing.
So, Phil, can you hand it to me and I'll hold up the dolls and tell you?
Because that looks like Michelle
Well,
Obama.
and she was, and my wife, 16 years ago, they gave her 2 weeks to live. She got down to 30 kilos. So she can.
But they told me I was autoimmune too, and I did the opposite. And it works.
Okay. This is Mary Beth. I saw everything that happened in the vision came from her brain, her whatever,
Her experiences.
and her memories and whatever. This is the baby that wasn't born. It isn't born yet, but I know all about the baby. When I was done typing,
This baby is not born yet.
correct.
How old is this baby when you saw her?
Oh, I saw her when she was pregnant before the baby was born. She had the baby in the basement. She's not saved at the beginning of the vision. Her parents are beautiful believers, and they knew what was about to happen, and they knew that she was not a believer. And they said, if things come up fast on her, she's not going to have time, and she'll take the mark, and she'll never be able to join us in heaven. So they thought and thought and thought, and they were pretty comfortable, wealthy, and so they sold their house, bought a different house that had a basement, and just filled the house with tracts, and at the time it was, you know, cassette tapes, and they paid the house, the taxes, the utilities, everything for 5 years ahead. Why it wasn't 7, I don't know, but they paid everything for 5 years. And they left. They made her promise time and time and time again, if this and this and this ever happens, you get to that house. No matter what it takes. Keep a couple thousand cash nearby. Long story, but anyway, she had a very upscale Jeep type product. I don't know the names of them. Renegade is something that was the small one, so it was the big fancy whatever Jeep. She put a tent in there. She grabbed all the money. And she got in her car.
But she's alone without her husband. She was alone without her husband.
Well, her husband was flying in. They were going to meet.
Oh.
But
And
yes,
this is after her parents
are gone. The first scene is her parents on a bridge, which I had never seen in real life, but is in Atlanta. Now I know, I see it. Her parents are waving goodbye.
What
That's-
prompted, do you know what prompted her to get in the Jeep? Do you know?
I'm not positive. I
Okay.
don't want to say
Okay,
something awful.
okay.
She was scared enough that she assumed she wouldn't make it all the way north.
So a disaster of some kind.
She thought she would not make it all the way there. She was trying to get to south of Chicago. And the funeral is where I met, okay. So that's Mary Beth and her husband, Jojer. His name is Joseph Jr., and she just called him Jojer.
And in the natural order, she's related to the junior?
Yes.
And it's her grandfather or
This man, Jojer's dad, was the general.
Okay, so she's the daughter.
That was
Yes.
murdered.
That's right. That's right. She is the daughter-in-law. Yes. I knew that Obama was, because I just knew him as a mixed-race leader. I knew he was much thinner than this. In the original paperwork and all the, I have photos and photos and